I never thought I'd be the guy writing on a subreddit about this kind of mess, but here I am. It's funny how life can flip on you in a heartbeat. I'd been with her for 5 years, planning the wedding, imagining a future that finally felt right. We had everything mapped out in our heads: quiet nights, Sunday mornings, the kind of love that feels solid, unbreakable. Or so I thought. It started about 2 weeks ago when I stumbled across her phone. Nothing suspicious at first, just a text from her best friend's husband, Mark. It was casual, a good luck tonight, can't wait to see you type of thing. I didn't think much of it. Honestly, I didn't even think it was out of the ordinary. Friends text each other. But then I noticed she'd been unusually secretive lately, hiding her phone when I came near, typing fast, then shoving it aside like it was worth hiding. One night, I decided to check her messages when she was in the shower. My stomach sank as I scrolled through her texts. There was an entire thread with Mark, full of flirtatious jokes, plans to meet up, and even some late-night messages that made my blood run cold. I read her texting him about how she couldn't wait to see him again, how she was tired of hiding it, how she loved the feeling of sneaking around. My fingers trembled as I held her phone. My world tilted. She'd been lying to me for months. All those excuses about how busy she was, her working late, her phone being family only, it was all bullshit. I could feel my jaw tighten. My palms were clammy, the room suddenly too hot. I wanted to scream, wanted to shake her awake and ask her how she could betray me this way. I kept reading, every message hitting harder than the last. Then I saw the pictures. She sent him selfies, her face flushed, lips slightly parted, the lighting just perfect to make her look desirable. I saw the one that broke me, her sitting on our bed, wearing that sweater I loved, her hair messy, eyes looking into the camera like she was daring me to find out. She knew I'd find it, and I did. That moment, standing there with her phone in my hand, I felt a wave of nausea hit me. My heart hammered so loud I thought she'd hear it upstairs. I looked at her clothes in the laundry basket, her perfume lingering on her pillow, like I'd been betrayed on every level, physically and emotionally. All those promises, all those future plans, shattered in an instant. I didn't wake her that night. I just sat in the dark, staring at her phone, replaying everything I'd seen. The betrayal, the lies, the way she'd been fooling me while I trusted her with everything I had. I felt sick, angry, confused. How could she do this? How could she lie right before our wedding? I kept asking myself that, but no answer came. Just the cold, harsh truth staring back at me. She had been cheating with her best friend's husband, and I was the last to know. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My stomach was all knotted up, my head pounding from the sleepless night. I couldn't get the images out of my mind, the texts, the photos, her face in that selfie. It was like a punch to the gut every time I blinked. I knew I couldn't keep carrying this secret. Inside me, I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. I decided to take a walk, get some air, clear my head. The air was crisp, winter lingering in the air, and I could taste the cold on my tongue. My shoes crunched on the gravel as I kept circling the neighborhood, trying to come up with a plan. I felt like I was walking into a storm I couldn't see coming, but I had to be ready. That's when the idea hit me. I needed leverage, something to make her realize she couldn't keep hiding or lying. I wasn't the kind of guy to storm and yelling. I wanted something more calculated, something she wouldn't see coming. I knew her habits well enough by now. I needed to confirm everything, then make her feel the weight of what she'd done. Over the next couple of days, I set up a plan. I hired a private investigator. Yeah, I'm that guy now. It felt dirty, but I wasn't about to play the fool. The pie started tailing her, gathering evidence of her meetings with Mark. I needed proof, hard evidence, something undeniable. While that was happening, I kept my composure. I pretended everything was normal, kept my cool around her, but inside I was seething with rage. Every time she touched me, smiled at me, I could feel the betrayal burning in my chest. I wanted to scream, but I had to hold it in. I had to be methodical. One evening, I sat her down for a talk. I pointed out her odd behavior, her secretive phone habits. She brushed it off, said she'd been stressed, busy with work. I just looked at her, silent. She didn't realize I already knew everything. That's when I pulled out the evidence, the photos, the texts, the GPS locations from the pie's report. Her face drained of color when she saw it, her eyes darting around like a cornered animal. She stammered. I don't know what you're talking about. This must be a mistake. I shook my head slowly, feeling my jaw tighten. I told her I'd been watching her for days, collecting everything. Her lies had been so obvious I didn't even need the proof, except I wanted her to see it in black and white. She broke down then, tears streaming down her face. It's not what it looks like. I swear I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was stupid, I was lonely. Her voice cracked, but I didn't buy it. I told her she'd crossed the line and now she'd have to face the consequences. That's when I revealed my plan, revenge. Not petty, not childish. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to see her own reflection in the damage she'd caused. I told her I was going to take her phone, her computer, everything that connected her to Mark and her secret life. I'd destroy it all, wipe away her lies like they never existed. I explained that I'd make her realize how deep she'd gone, how badly she'd hurt me before I even thought about forgiving her. Her eyes widened in shock, but she didn't say a word. She just kept crying. As I left her there, tears streaming down her face, I knew I was on my way to executing my plan. I'd made up my mind. She'd regret what she'd done. I didn't know how I'd feel afterward, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without consequences, not without her knowing exactly how much she'd lost. The next few days were a blur of planning and executing. I felt like I'd entered some kind of war zone, except I wasn't fighting with fists or guns. I was fighting with cold, calculated moves. I had to be precise. I couldn't let her see me coming. I already knew her habits. I just had to use that knowledge against her. First, I took her phone, her laptop, her personal email account, everything that could connect her to Mark. I backed it all up, then wiped her devices clean. I wanted to make her realize what losing her digital life meant. It's funny how much of our world is tied up in devices these days. I watched her panic when she noticed her social media and messages disappeared one by one. Her mouth went dry. She kept asking what I was doing. I just told her, "You lost your way, now I'm taking it all back." Meanwhile, I'd set up a few discreet cameras around the house. Nothing obvious, just enough to catch her in the act if she tried to cover her tracks. I even planted a few missing items, an expensive scarf she forgot, her favorite necklace, things I knew she'd notice. It wasn't about petty revenge. It was about making her feel the consequences of her betrayal slowly, painfully. I also reached out to her best friend, Linda. I told her I knew everything, that her best friend was cheating with her husband. Linda was stunned, but I could hear the shock in her voice. I told her I didn't want to ruin her friendship, but I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I made her promise to stay quiet, at least until I knew what I was going to do next. I told her, "If you're really my friend, you'll understand why I have to do this." I scheduled a meeting with Linda, hoping she'd see what her husband had been up to. Meanwhile, I kept the focus on my plan. I didn't want her to think I was just waiting around. I wanted her to realize that everything she thought was hidden was now exposed, piece by piece. One night I called her into the living room, acting calm but serious. "We need to talk," I said, voice low. She looked nervous, her eyes darting around. I handed her a folder. "This is everything. The texts, the photos, the GPS data. I want you to understand how much I know." Her hands shook as she flipped through the pages, her face blanching. "You've been lying to me," I said, "and I think you need to understand that I'm serious about what's coming next." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Please, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I looked at her and shook my head. "Sorry, that doesn't cut it anymore. I'm not just mad, I'm done. I've got a plan and you're not going to like it." That's when I revealed my ultimate move. I'd contacted her boss, her coworkers, everyone who mattered professionally, not to ruin her career but to make her feel what it's like to have her reputation shredded. I wanted her to see her world falling apart because she'd chosen to break mine. The next day I left her alone for a while. I packed her bags quietly and left her a note. It said, "You lost everything that mattered. Don't try to contact me. I'll be gone. Do come looking for me." I knew she'd try to reach out, but I was already miles ahead. I'd already started the final phase, and I was ready to make sure she paid the price for her betrayal. Standing there, looking at her shocked face, I realized something. I wasn't just angry, I was determined. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done, and I was going to make sure she never forgets it. That's when I knew, no matter how this turns out, I'd finally take control of my life again. I drove away from her house that afternoon with my stomach twisted in knots. The car was silent except for the hum of the engine, and every mile felt like a step further from a life I no longer recognized. I kept replaying her face when she saw the evidence. The shock, the guilt, those expressions burned into my mind. I wanted her to feel every ounce of the pain she'd caused me. That was the whole point. I knew I couldn't just vanish. I had to make her understand that this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about justice, about reclaiming my dignity. I'd laid the groundwork, but now I had to be patient. I'd given her the taste of chaos, and I was planning to strike again, at the right moment. That evening I sat in a quiet cafe, watching her house through the window. I saw her come out, look around nervously, then get into her car. She was frantic, trying to figure out what I'd done. I knew she'd be calling Linda, trying to piece everything together. I didn't want to be there when she did. Instead, I went straight to my own place where I could finally breathe without looking over my shoulder. I kept my phone close, waiting. I knew she'd reach out, probably with tears or pleading, probably begging me to forgive her. I was already preparing my response. I wanted her to feel the cold distance I was capable of. No more excuses, no more tears, just silence. Sure enough, the next morning her name popped up on my screen. I didn't answer. I let it ring, then texted her saying I needed space, that I was processing everything. But what I was really doing was prepping my next move. I'd sent her a message that I was going to give her a final chance to come clean, to confess everything. I wanted her to realize she was cornered. While waiting, I called Linda. She was hesitant at first, but I pressed her. Tell her the truth, I said. Tell her what Mark has been doing, how long this has been going on. Make her see she's not the only one hurt. I knew Linda was loyal, and I needed her to be my voice now. I told her, if she's not honest with herself, she'll lose everything. That day I stayed quiet and watched her social media, waiting for her to slip up. I saw her try to post a vague apology, but it felt hollow. I could see her eyes, they were empty, like she was already gone in her mind. I kept my distance, but I was ready for the moment she'd break. When she finally called me that night, her voice was trembling. Please, she begged, can we talk? I swear I'll tell you everything, just don't do anything stupid. I kept my voice calm, steady. You already did that. Now it's time to be honest. Tell me everything or I walk away for good. Her silence told me she was finally realizing she had no cards left. That's when I knew I'd made her feel it. Later that night I stayed up late, reviewing everything I knew. Her face haunted me, her lies, her betrayal, all laid bare. I'd planned this for days, and now it was coming to a head. I'd given her the chance to own up, but I wasn't sure she would. I had to decide how to proceed. I was ready to cut the cord for good, but I needed her to make the first move. Because I wanted her to understand how deep her betrayal had gone, and how far I was willing to go to reclaim what was mine. The following day, I woke up feeling like I'd been running on fumes. My nerves were frayed, but I knew what I had to do. I couldn't keep waiting around for her to make a move or confess. The silence was deafening, and I'd already given her enough time to drown in guilt. Now it was time for the final step, once and for all. I reached out to Linda again, telling her to meet me at that same quiet coffee shop. She was hesitant, but I convinced her it was necessary. When she arrived, her eyes were red-rimmed like she'd been crying all night. I looked her over, then spoke plainly. You need to tell her everything, no more hiding. She deserves the truth, every detail, no matter how ugly. Linda hesitated, then finally nodded. Mark, been cheating with her for months. I didn't want to believe it at first, but it's true. They met up at his place, at her work, everywhere. I think she's just as much a victim in this as you are. Her voice cracked like she was trying to hold herself together. I'll tell her, but you sure about this? Once she knows, there's no going back. I looked her in the eyes and said, she's already lost everything. This is just the reality check she needs. Besides, I want her to hear it from someone who's not me. That's the only way she'll really understand. Linda nodded again, then pulled out her phone to send the message. I could see her heart pounding just like mine. Minutes later, her phone buzzed. It was her finally texting back. I read the message, can we meet? I have to talk to you, please. My stomach clenched, but I kept my face calm. I knew the moment had come. I asked Linda to wait outside. When she left, I stayed inside, watching her from the corner of the shop. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her hands, her eyes darting everywhere. Then she looked up, saw me, and slowly approached. Her voice was strained. "I'm sorry," she said, "for everything. I didn't want it to go this way." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I let her talk. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, exposed. Then I finally said, "It's over. You lost your chance to lie or deny. Now you're going to tell me what really happened, every detail." Her eyes fluttered, then she broke down. "It started because I was lonely. Mark was there, someone I trusted, and I was stupid. I didn't think it would go this far. I swear I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know how to stop it." I felt a strange mixture of relief and fury. Relief because she was finally admitting it, fury because she'd betrayed me so deeply. I took a deep breath. "That's not enough. I want the truth, every single thing, or I walk away and never look back." She nodded quickly, choking on her words. "We met up almost every week, sometimes at his house, sometimes in hotels. I didn't think about how much it would destroy us. I just felt so lost, so empty. I never wanted to hurt you, but I did." I listened, trying to keep my composure, my hands clenched into fists. I wanted to scream at her, call her all the names I'd been holding back, but I kept my voice even. "You're right, none of that matters now, because I've made my decision. It's over for us. I'm leaving. You want to keep lying, go ahead, but I'm done pretending I don't see the truth anymore." Her face crumpled. "Please don't do this. Give me another chance. I'll fix everything, I swear." I shook my head slowly. "You had your chance. You blew it. I don't want to be with someone who's capable of this kind of betrayal. I'll take the evidence and I'll leave tonight. That's the end of it." I pulled out a small folder I'd prepared. Inside were all the screenshots, GPS logs, and her confession. I handed it to her, then turned to leave. "You can call me when you're ready to face what you've done, but don't come looking for me, not anymore." As I walked out that door, I felt the last of the weight lift. I'd done what I set out to do, expose her, confront her, and finally cut ties for good. I'd take control, and she'd have to live with the choices she'd made. That's the lesson I learned. Sometimes the only way to heal is to face the truth head-on, no matter how ugly it is. That night I packed a bag and left her house for good. I didn't want to hang around and listen to her sobs or plead one more time. I already knew she'd try, but I didn't care. I'd given her enough chances to come clean, to own up, to be honest. Instead, she chose her lies. I was done. Driving away, I felt an odd mixture of relief and emptiness. The weight I'd carried for weeks finally lifted, but the hollow ache of betrayal still lingered. Every mile I put between us felt like shedding a layer of false hope. I'd been blind, trusting someone I loved, only to find out she'd been cheating with her best friend's husband, someone I thought I knew. As I pulled into a quiet motel on the outskirts of town, I took a deep breath and sat in my car for a moment. The cool night air hit my face. I looked up at the stars, trying to find some sense in everything that had just happened. I realized I'd been living in a bubble, fooling myself into thinking everything was perfect. Turns out, I'd been blind to the truth for a long time. I reflected on the steps I'd taken, how I'd gathered every piece of evidence, how I'd confronted her with facts she couldn't deny. I remembered her tears, her pleas. Honestly, I didn't feel victorious, more like a man who'd finally woken up from a nightmare he'd been trapped in. It was hard to admit that I'd been so naive to believe I was safe from this kind of betrayal, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd taken back control. I'd faced the pain head-on, and I'd done what I needed to do to move forward. No more lies, no more illusions, just me standing on my own again. It hurt, but it also freed me. The next morning, I signed the divorce papers. I handed over the keys to her apartment, told her to keep what was hers, and I walked away. I didn't want anything from her anymore. No anger, no regret, just a clean break. I wanted to close this chapter of my life with dignity. Looking back, I realized trust is fragile. It can shatter in an instant, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. But sometimes the only way to heal is to face the truth, no matter how painful. I learned that betrayal isn't just about the other person. It's about how you respond when everything falls apart. So here's my advice. Don't ignore the red flags. When your gut tells you something's wrong, listen. Be honest with yourself and act before it's too late. And if you find yourself betrayed, gather your strength, face it head on, and don't be afraid to take control. The only way to truly move on is to own what happened and decide what kind of future you want, one built on honesty or one haunted by lies. I'll keep walking forward now. The past is behind me and I'm finally free.